Macron has penned a letter to the French people. Is it going to make a difference at all? Hi, thanks for watching. Today's Monday, and on my channel, that's Mainstream Media Monday, where I like to talk about subjects that deal with the mainstream media. Now today, I want to talk about what's happened over the weekend in France. Their president, Emmanuel Macron, has published an open letter to the country where he's asking people to stop protesting and come together and let's solve all of these problems. Now, this is coming right after the 9th weekend of protests of the yellow vests. Now, in solidarity, I would wear my yellow vest, but it's reflective and it doesn't show up on the camera very well. So I'm wearing it in solidarity, it just doesn't show up. But this is not a last-ditch effort, but this is an effort on his part to kind of quell all of the violence and the protests that are going on in France right now. It reminds me that in 1789, there was a king. His name was Louis XVI. Well, he did the same thing. He summoned all the citizens together and the aristocracy and to figure out the finances of the country and to try to solve the problems and all the discontent that was going on. Well, within a few months, he was powerless. And within 4 years, his head was in a guillotine. And we know how that ended. It's interesting because what is happening in France right now is huge. It is so important, in my opinion. And I find it fascinating that the American media is just not covering this story at all. But let's get into the story. This is from Reuters. With 2,300-word letter, Macron launches debate to quell yellow vest unrest. And in this story, they talk about this 2,300-word letter. But I tried to find the letter. This was a letter penned by the president of France. I cannot find an English translation of this letter in any mainstream media. In fact, I have not been able to find it. It doesn't mean that someone hasn't done it yet, but with Google, I have not been able to find a translation of this letter. And I would think this is kind of a big deal. This is a big story. I mean, I know they're not covering it, but this really is a big story. They make a big deal about Trump being unpopular. Not even close. Not even close. The popularity levels of Macron are less than half of what it is for Trump. So that's how dire it is over there. You would think it would be a story, and you would think that some American media would publish this letter. I couldn't find it, so I had to go through and do a translation. I did a translation online, so it's not perfect. And I read through the letter, and I found it really interesting. Now, the main criticisms of Macron, if you don't know, they call him the president of the rich. Now, he's only a year and a half into his 5-year term as the French president. But when he came in, he cut all kinds of taxes for the wealthy, for the very wealthy. Taxes, the corporate tax rate went from like 33% to 25%. He cut taxes on investment, and poor people aren't investing. It's only rich people that are investing. And he cut out those taxes, lots and lots of taxes for the uber wealthy. And when I read through this open letter to the French people, he talked about how he's open to all kinds of ideas, but the one thing that he's not open to is raising the taxes back that he already cut. He's not going to do that. That is off the table. But all other ideas he's open to. It's really incredible. I think a lot of the letter seems to be disingenuous. He's really reaching But that's just my take on it. But what I find just the most interesting is that this is not a story in the U.S. and not a single American media has put out his letter. So this is my prediction for the week, and this is why I made this video. I believe that there will not be an American media company that will print Macron's letter in English. I don't think it will happen. Now, I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. But I do not believe that they will do this. And it's interesting as to why. Now, I can't read minds. Maybe it doesn't get the clicks that they want. But frankly, I'm sure there are some people in America that would like to read this letter. Could it be that the corporate media is just representing the status quo of this country? The corporate status quo? And they certainly don't want us, Americans, we Americans, to see these kinds of protests going on in France, and that we might start doing that as well. I suspect that may be the case, but I don't know. But I would like to know what you think of this story. Please let me know in the comments. And after the outro with the coffee cup and the music and everything like that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to read the letter from Macron to the French people, a bad translation of it in English. And I'm doing this because nobody else is. I understand if you don't want to listen to that, that's cool. You know, hit the thumbs up button, like the video, and, you know, go watch another video. That's cool. But if you are interested in this letter and you want to hear what he said to the French people, stick around after the music and I'm going to read the letter. But let me know, are you interested in what's going on in France? Let me know in the comments. Peace. You can help me reach my goal of 1 million. Make that 3,000 subscribers by hitting the like button and subscribing. Dear Frenchmen, my dear compatriots, in a period of questioning and uncertainty like the one we are going through, we must remember who we are. France is not a country like the others. The meaning of injustice is more vivid than elsewhere, the need for mutual aid and solidarity stronger. At home, those who pay for retirees' pensions. At home, a large number of citizens pay an income tax, sometimes heavy, which reduces inequities. At home, education, health, security, justice, or hardships of life, like unemployment, can be overcome thanks to the effort shared by all. This is why France is, of all nations, one of the most fraternal and most egalitarian. It is also one of the freest, since everyone is protected in his rights and in his freedom of opinion, conscience, belief, or philosophy. And every citizen has the right to choose those who will bear his voice in the conduct of the country, in the drafting of the laws, in the major decisions to be taken. Everyone shares the fate of others, and everyone is called to decide the fate of all. That's all, the French nation. How not to feel the pride of being French? I know, of course, that some of us today are dissatisfied or angry because taxes are too high for them, public services too far away, because wages are too low for some to be able to live with dignity, because of the fact that our country does not offer the same chances of succeeding according to where the family comes from. All would like a more prosperous country and more just society. This ambition, I share it. The society we want is a society in which to succeed, one should not need relationships or fortune, but effort and work. In France, but also in Europe and in the world, not only a great anxiety, but also a great trouble have won the spirits. We must respond with clear ideas. But there is one condition: to accept no form of violence. I do not accept the pressure and the insult, for example, of the people's elected representatives. I do not accept the general accusation, for example, the media, journalists, institutions, and officials. If everyone attacks everyone, society gets rid of it. In order for hopes to dominate fears, it is necessary and legitimate for us to wrest together the great questions of our future. That is why I proposed and I launched today a great national debate that will run until March 15th. In recent weeks, mayors have opened their town halls so that you can express your expectations. I had first feedback that I could take into account. We will now enter a larger phase, and you will be able to participate in debates near your home or express yourself on the internet to put forward your proposals and your ideas. In France, overseas, and with French residents abroad, in villages, towns, neighborhoods, on the initiative of mayors, elected officials, community leaders, or ordinary citizens, in parliamentary assemblies, as regional or departmental. Mayors will have an essential role because they are your elected representatives and therefore the legitimate intermediary of the expression of citizens. For me, there are no forbidden questions. We will not agree on everything. It's normal. It's democracy. But at least we will show that we are people who are not afraid to speak, to exchange, to debate. And perhaps we will discover that we can agree, mostly beyond our preferences, more often than we think. I have not forgotten that I was elected on a project, on major orientations to which I remain faithful. I always think that we must restore France's prosperity so that it can be generous, because one goes with the other. I always think that the fight against unemployment must be our top priority, and that employment is created first and foremost in companies, so that we must give them the means to develop. I still think we need to rebuild industrial, digital, and agricultural sovereignty and invest in knowledge and research. I still think that we need to rebuild a school of trust, a renovated social system to better protect the French and reduce the inequities at the root. I still think that depletion of natural resources and climate change compel us to rethink our development model. We must invest in new, productive, social, educational, environmental, and European project that is more just and more effective. On these major orientations, my determination has not changed. But I also think from this debate we can come a clarification of our national and European project, new ways of looking at the future, new ideas. In this debate, I hope that the greatest number of French people, the greatest number of us, can participate. This debate will have to answer key questions that have emerged in recent weeks. That is why, with the government, we have chosen 4 major themes that cover many of the major issues of the nation: taxation and public spending, the organization of the state and public services, the ecological transition, democracy, and citizenship. On each of these themes, proposals, questions are already expressed. I wish to formulate some that do not exhaust the debate, but seem to me at the heart of our questions. The first topic deals with our taxes, our expenses, and public action. Tax is at the heart of our national solidarity. He is the one who finances our public services. It pays teachers, firefighters, police, military, magistrates, nurses, and all the public servants who work for you. It makes it possible to pay to the most fragile social benefits, but also to finance some big future projects, our research, our culture, or to maintain our infrastructures. It is also the tax that pays the interest on the very important debt that our country has incurred over time. But taxes, when they're too high, deprive our economy of resources that could usefully invest in businesses, thereby creating jobs and growth. And he deprives the workers of the fruit of their efforts. We will not revisit the steps we have taken to correct this, to encourage investment, and to make work pay more. They have just been voted and are just beginning to show their efforts. Parliament will evaluate them in a transparent way and with the necessary hindsight. On the other hand, we must question ourselves to go further. How can we make our tax system fairer and more efficient? Which taxes do you think should be lowered first? We cannot, in any case, pursue tax cuts without lowering the overall level of our public spending. What are the savings that you think are priorities? Should we remove some public services that are outdated or too expensive compared to their utility? Conversely, do you see new needs for public services and how to finance them? Our social model is also questioned. Some consider it insufficient, others too expensive because of the contributions they pay. The effectiveness of training as employment services is often criticized. The government has started to respond to them after wide consultation through a strategy to improve our health, to fight against poverty, and against unemployment. How to better organize our social pact. Which objectives should be prioritized? The second subject on which we must make decisions is the organization of the state and public authorities. Public services have a cost, but they are vital. School, police, army, hospitals, courts are essential to our social cohesion. Are there too many administrative levels or levels of local government? Should we reinforce decentralization and give more power of decision and action closer to the citizens? At what levels and for which services? How would you like the state to be organized, and how can it improve its action? Should we review the functioning of the administration, and how? How can the state and local communities improve to better meet the challenges of our most troubled territories? And what do you propose? The ecological transition is the third theme, essential to our future. I am committed to objectives of preserving biodiversity and combating global warming and air pollution. Today, no one disputes the urgent need to act quickly. The longer we delay questioning ourselves, the more painful these changes will be. Making the green transition reduces fuel, heating, waste management, and transportation costs. But to succeed in this transition, we must invest heavily and support our most modest fellow citizens. National solidarity is necessary so that all French can achieve this. How do we finance the ecological transition? By taxes? By taxes, and who should be concerned in priority? How do we make concrete solutions accessible to all? For example, to replace the old boiler or old car? What are the simplest and most financially sustainable solutions? What are the solutions for moving housing, heating, feeding that should be designed at the local rather than national level? What concrete proposals would you make to accelerate our environmental transition? The issue of biodiversity is also an issue for us all. How do we guarantee scientifically the choices we have to make in this regard? How to share these choices at European and international level so that our farmers and our industrialists are not penalized compared to their foreign competitors? Finally, it is clear that the period that our country is going through shows that we need to give more strength to democracy and citizenship. Being a citizen means helping to decide the future of the country by electing representatives at the local, national, or European level. This system of representation is the bedrock of our republic, but it must be improved because many do not feel represented after the elections. Should the white vote be recognized? Should we make voting compulsory? What is the right dose of proportional to the parliamentary elections for a fairer representation of all political projects? Should and in what proportions limit the number of parliamentarians or other categories of elected? What role should our assemblies, including the Senate and the Economic, Social, and Environmental Council, play in representing our territories and civil society? Should we transform them, and how? In addition, a great democracy like France must be able to listen more often to the voice of its citizens. What changes do you want to make citizen participation more active, democracy more participative? Should more and directly associate unelected citizens, for example, chosen by lot, to public decision? Should we increase the use of referendums, and who should have the initiative? Citizenship is also about living together. Our country has always known how to welcome those who have fled wars, persecutions, and sought refuge on our soil. It is the right of asylum, which cannot be questioned. Our national community has also always been open to those who, born elsewhere, choose France in search of a better future. This is how it was built. However, this tradition is today shaken by tensions and doubts related to immigration and the failures of our integration system. How do you propose to improve integration in our nation? When it comes to immigration, once our asylum obligations are fulfilled, do you want us to be able to set annual targets set by Parliament? What do you propose to answer this challenge that will last? The question of secularism is still in France subject to important debates. Secularism is the primary value so that different beliefs, religious or philosophical, can live together in harmony and harmony. It is synonymous with freedom because it allows everyone to live according to their choices. How to strengthen the principles of French secularism in the relationship between the state and the religions of our country. How to ensure respect by all of the reciprocal understanding and intangible values of the Republic. In the coming weeks, I invite you to debate to answer these crucial questions for the future of our nation. I always hope that you can, beyond these topics that I propose to you, evoke any concrete subject of which you would have the impression that it could improve your daily existence. This debate is an unprecedented initiative of which I am determined to draw all the conclusions. This is neither an election nor a referendum. It is your personal expression corresponding to your history, your opinions, your priorities, which is here expected. Regardless of age or social condition, it is, I believe, a great step forward for our republic to consult its citizens in this way. To guarantee your freedom of speech, I want this consultation to be organized in complete independence and be framed by all the guarantees of loyalty and transparency. This is how I intend to transform anger with you. Your proposals will therefore make it possible to build a new contract for the nation, to structure the actions of the government and the parliament, but also the positions of France at European and international level. I will report to you directly in the month following the end of the debate. Dear Frenchmen, my dear countrymen, I hope that as many of you as possible can participate in this great debate in order to make a useful contribution to the future of our country. In trust, Emmanuel Macron.